Hello, everyone, and welcome to another webisode of All Politics Are Local. I'm WSAV Now reporter John Dowding. Every week, we take the time to break down some of those big headlines coming from Washington to see how it impacts us right here in the Coastal Empire and Low Country. As always, I'm being joined by WSAV Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer. Hey, Kelly, how are you doing this morning?
Good, John. How are you?
Good, good. I mean, it's been to say that we've had a busy week since the last time we talked is an understatement. I mean, we've had a busy 3, 4 days, let alone the
Yeah.
last week. So much has happened. The president contracted coronavirus. We are seeing just so much reaction to that, not just here in the States, but around the world. We're learning about all the implications because of that, the national security implications, how it's impacting, processes on the Hill, different things like that, which we're going to go into later on in this episode. But I just wanted to let's just brush the surface with this. The president contracted COVID-19, and now we're learning all of these other members of his cabinet, his close officials. I think at least at the time we're recording this, at least 10 people close to him have contracted COVID. So Kelly, just talk to us about the reaction from Capitol Hill. I mean, it's kind of it was honest. It's probably like one of those worst case scenarios that lawmakers were talking about and thinking about and anticipating of an outbreak in one branch of the government moving to another branch of the government. So Kelly, talk to us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just all uncharted territory. And I mean, the president has been having these events, these campaign rallies, or, we were at the White House on Saturday during what now is being called this potentially super spreader event when he was introducing the Supreme Court nominee. That was just last Saturday, not this past Saturday, the Saturday before. And I was there for that, grabbing some interviews, going back and turning a story on that. And even in that moment, I mean, you could see the crowd of people tight together, not many wearing masks. We were in the back. I kind of socially distanced in the pool there. But, from there, some of those lawmakers, whether it was that event or, like they said, the debate prep that Governor Christie was with the president in, and Hope Hicks, of course, they both had tested positive. And then we had some senators come to the Hill, and we don't know the extent that it's spread there now. So it's really, we're looking at this outbreak situation from here in Washington, both at the White House, potentially at the Capitol and elsewhere. We're learning more people each day that have contracted the virus. And it's just really, like I said, uncharted territory. It's so close to the election. We are just hours away from the next debate. It is really just such a wild, unprecedented time. I'm learning more and more each day. I can't even tell you what to expect in the next couple hours as we dig into what's happening here on the Hill.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's constantly developing every minute, every moment because of how quickly it spreads and other tests coming back. I mean, luckily the president, he was hospitalized over the weekend. He has returned back to the White House, thank God, and he seems to be doing better. He kind of drew some controversy and some criticism for last night when he came back to the White House and took off his mask, even though he still has the virus and can still pass the virus on to other people, but that's a whole nother conversation. But kind of talking and about the implications of this. One of the things we were talking about before was how this is really putting a damper on Republicans' efforts to try and fast track the nomination process for Amy Coney Barrett, who is President Trump's nominee to fill the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg seat on the Supreme Court. And Republicans were really hoping to try and get this process, they were trying to say, done by election day. They were hoping to speed this up, but this outbreak has kind of obviously changed a lot of their plans. So I know, Kelly, you spoke with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell. You spoke with our South Carolina Senator, Lindsey Graham, who had a debate this weekend we will also talk about later on. And they were kind of talking to you about what they're hoping and looking to possibly do. Lindsey Graham is the head of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who would lead those hearings to try and approve her for the Supreme Court, I should say. So, Kelly, tell us what they're planning, because I mean, this definitely came out of left field. Nobody was anticipating this.
Well, it's interesting when I talked with the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, that was on Thursday before we found out the news of President Trump. But even in that interview, it was interesting. And the news I took away from it was that he didn't commit to holding a vote before the election. When I asked him about the majority of Americans opposing that the judge be confirmed before election day, he said, well, I haven't said that that's how it's going to play out. I have a bite exactly of how he said it. I want to play for you now.
Well, I haven't said exactly when we will move on the nominee on the floor. I've just said in the near future. And of course, I think the American people were answering that question before they knew who the nominee was. Now they have a chance to talk about a real flesh and blood person, what's she like, what are her skills like, and they'll begin to meet her in her hearings that will begin October the 12th, a week from Monday. And the American people, I think, then will judge the nominee based upon who it is rather than the process that we're going through to reach confirmation.
The timeline he was leaving open, and interesting that he left it open because 24 hours later, we found out the news of President Trump and many other GOP senators who are members of the Judiciary Committee that will be having those confirmation hearings also tested positive. We have Tom Tillis, we have Mike Lee, and I maybe some more now as well. We may find out more this week. But Senator Lindsey Graham, who, like you said, is the chairman of the Judiciary, is still planning on having these hearings this coming Monday, October 12th through the week. And the Senate Majority Leader said that's separate. He can go on with that. The senators, we are not going to come back until the 19th. And now how they're going to do this hearing, it's so interesting that it will be a Supreme Court nomination hearing, partly virtual, because many people won't want to come in person with many of these members testing positive. And then when you have the vote, members that aren't in the committee are voting and may have the virus. I believe Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson said he will come in a moon suit to vote for this nominee, even though he has the coronavirus. So it's a really interesting time here on Capitol Hill. Right now, lawmakers aren't here, but they will be returning for this confirmation process. So it's really interesting. So we'll have to keep an eye out.
I hate to say the word again, but unprecedented times we're experiencing right now. And I definitely think, and I'm happy you touched on how they're proceeding with the hearings. They're going to talk about a hybrid sort of thing. Some people in the chamber and other people, like you said, tuning in.
That's what we're thinking, yeah.
Yeah, and also too, I mean, another person we have to talk about who's sitting on that committee is also Kamala Harris, Senator Kamala Harris, who is the vice presidential nominee for the Democratic ticket. So she is obviously facing a debate with the vice president, Mike Pence, this week on Wednesday, I believe. Right, Kelly? I believe she's facing the debate with him on Wednesday in Utah.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah, and tomorrow night. It's coming quick. They're going to have a plexiglass barrier between the two of them. Between this debate, everybody's
12
getting
feet
tested
apart.
and screened.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's definitely a lot of changes are coming out of what we saw last week, out of last week's debate, and also now to the president testing positive and so many other people around him testing positive. And really quickly, before we go, I want to kind of talk about a debate that happened a little bit closer to home here. Over the weekend, we saw Senator Lindsey Graham, who we said, had the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Republican. He was debating against his Democratic challenger for the South Carolina Senate, and honestly, a race that is unexpectedly close. I don't know about you, Kelly, but I am extremely surprised by just how tight and how contentious and how honestly just unexpectedly close this race has become. And they were debating about obviously a number of topics, and they're going to actually face another debate on all of the Next Star stations in South Carolina and Georgia, as well as WSAV here. They're going to be on WSPA, WCBD in Charleston, a number of other stations across the state. So Kelly, talk to us about that debate. I know you're watching closely. What were you seeing out of that debate? What was the I don't want to say argument, but what was the back and forth like between Jamie Harrison and Lindsey Graham?
Well, it was a really highly anticipated debate for everyone back in the state, but for us here on the Hill that cover Senator Graham and who are going to be covering him as we said those hearings begin. Like you said, it's gotten very close. They touched on a variety of issues and got a lot of ground covered within that. I believe it was just an hour debate. Of course, they talked about the confirmation hearings. They talked about the coronavirus. It was a very interesting time to have the debate with such a busy weekend and so much happening as well. But they both tried to make a point of their record. But I think Graham is, pushing for this Supreme Court hearing. I think he's hoping that, showing that he can get this nominee through. He has such a powerful position on this committee. He is hoping that maybe that adds some leverage to his election day chances. But Harrison is really outspending Graham. I know we talked last week that Graham's been going on all the network shows saying, help me out, pray for me, donate, they're outspending me. He's saying it's because the liberals hate his guts and they're just coming in and outspending him. But Harrison is really raising a lot of money and has really come out and is putting up quite the fight for Graham. So it's become one of the most watched races, one of the tightest races in the Senate, and really just a huge race. I mean, Graham's a very powerful senator on the Senate Judiciary and been a senator for 13 years or so. He's been up here. So it's quite the race. I'm definitely excited to watch.
And yes, I'm excited to watch. I'm excited to cover it on election night. And he's also a close confidant of the president. So that's obviously, it's obviously an interesting situation. And also too, just really quickly, I want to say before we go, is a lot of the messaging we've been seeing here on TV here in South Carolina and Georgia, a lot of those attack ads that are constantly running, we're seeing Jamie Harrison's messaging really focusing on what's best for South Carolina, where Lindsey Graham is kind of talking about how, he's been here for South Carolina, but he's doing all of these things for the president. And again, he does touch on some things for South Carolina, but Jamie Harrison has really been hitting on this point of saying that, what he is trying to do is what's best for South Carolina. What Lindsey Graham, and this is again what Jamie Harrison is saying, what Lindsey Graham is doing, he's saying is helping his own interests. So it's almost some kind of messaging you'd see from some GOP lawmakers about talking about Democratic people who are running, But again, that is all the time we have for today. I mean, we covered a lot of stuff in the short period of time we talked, Kelly. So thank you so much, as always, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You can see more episodes of All Politics Are Local on our website. Just go to wsav.com/allpoliticsarelocal. And you can keep up with all of the things Kelly is doing on Capitol Hill, as well as our WSAV Washington Bureau team, who is up there as well. Just go to our website at wsav.com/Washington. Thank you so much for watching. I'm John Dowding. We'll see you again next week on All Politics Are Local.